Hey guys, it's Kaz here, and today I'm doing my January wrap up. But first, I do actually have a giveaway right at the moment for this book. This is How You Fall in Love by Anika Hussein. All you have to do is go and watch the recent short that I put out and then just comment anything on the video, and it's open until Valentine's Day, and then I just pick one random thing and then the publishers are going to send a free book out, so check that out if you want. It's romance, it's friends, fake dating, love square, all that jazz. So if that sounds interesting, go and comment on that video. So I did end up reading 9 things, I think, in January, which is surprising because the first half of January I felt like I was reading nothing. Just like this month actually. It's the 9th today and I've finished one book. And I'm halfway through another one. So yeah, I don't know what's going on recently, but yes, let's just jump straight in. It's not straight in, I've talked for ages. But let's go. First of all, I read Check Please Volume 2, Sticks and Stones by Ngozi Akazu. This is the second and final volume in the Check Please 2 volume contemporary university hockey graphic novel. This one, I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as the first one, unfortunately. I just felt like the vibes weren't the same. So for example, in the first one, we have Bitty first move into university and it's like several of the semesters and you meet all these amazing characters and it's like feels really found family and really fun and wholesome. But then in the second one, this one, a lot of the characters that were in the first one were in the last year of uni, so they all move out and go to different places. They do have little cameos in here, but there's a lot of new characters that come in, and because of that, like, the vibe isn't as wholesome and family and fun because you have to learn about all these new characters again and get to know them people rather than just following the ones that you already know and love. So it wasn't as good as the first one. I did enjoy it. I think I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, so it was decent, it was good, but it wasn't as good as the first one. And I feel like the characters that we already knew and love could have just been more of a main focus rather than trying to do another batch of them. And this is the sort of artwork we're getting here. Talking about fake dating earlier, next up I read She Drives Me Crazy by Kelly Quinlan. This is a sapphic romance about these two characters who don't get along, but one of them is bisexual, but people just think that she's saying it like, oh, she's trying to be quirky, she's trying to have a thing, she's trying to be different. She's never had anything to do with a girl, so is she really? And then the other one is a lesbian, but they're both trying to get some stuff out of it. They're both trying to progress in certain ways. So they pretend to be in a relationship and it's very enemies to friends to feelings, and I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was a great contemporary, really fun. I gave it 4.5 stars in the end because 5 stars is just like a feeling for me. But I did really enjoy it. I thought the characters were great and the story was good and the miscommunication was acceptable because it felt like you realised why each character was feeling certain ways and why they had certain opinions about each other. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Next up, I read The First to Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This is a prequel to They Both Die at the End. It's fucking chunky as well. But again, I really enjoyed this one. So this is, as the title may suggest, the first to die at the end. So it's when Deathcast is first created. So if you haven't read They Both Die at the End, basically it's like this world, but it's like a little sprinkling of science fiction in it because there's this app, there's this thing that's been created that can tell you when you're going to die. So basically you get a phone call and within the 24 hours that you got that phone call, you're going to die. They don't know how or when or where, but you're going to die. So this is set how many years previously, I can't remember, but it's the first time that this has happened. So there's like this big party where everyone's like, oh, Deathcast is a new thing and we're going to see if it really works, and then as you can imagine, the first person, one of the 2 main characters in here, is the first person that gets the phone call to say they're going to die within that 24 hours. And yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I did a buddy read of this one and I think we both enjoyed it. We did think it was long, but also the chapters are so short that it doesn't feel long. So the chapters are generally like a couple of pages long. There are some that are a bit longer when there's got more stuff going on. And just like the first book, if you've read the first book, then you know that they have what seem like random chapters from random people, but then the story all comes together and then there's reasons behind it, and then it weaves together, and this did the same thing, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really interesting way. There's also ways that this is sewn up into, they both die at the end, so there's certain little cameos. The first one I didn't even notice because I totally forgot the name of one of the characters, but then the second one I was like, hang about, I know who that is. And then they mentioned another thing and I was like, oh my days, that character from earlier is that other character. This makes no sense if you haven't read it. But yes, I very much enjoyed this. It made me cry, as most Adam Silvera books do. All. I don't know why I'm saying most. All of them have made me cry. But I really did enjoy this one. Would I say it's as good as the first one? Probably not. I don't know why. There's just like, there's something about the first one, because it was the first time you ever read it, this weird thing, this death cast. But I don't think it takes anything away from the first one. So sometimes you wait a while and then a sequel or a prequel comes out and you think that wasn't necessary. This one, I enjoyed the way that it was done. I enjoyed the way that it was weaved into the plot of the first one or the second one, because this is a prequel. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. After that, I read Out of Character by Jenna Miller. This is a arc is out this month. It says the 23rd of this month, so and this one I enjoyed, but also it's hard to sort of say stuff about it. I don't know why, because it feels like just a story about this girl's life and she's just doing her stuff, so there aren't that many like really big things that happen and then low. It just feels like an ongoing several months of this character's life. But I did enjoy it. So if you like stories that are just sort of like not plodding along, but you know, it happens over quite a while, different things happen, there's ebbs and flows, but it's not like this main peak of a story sort of thing, then you might like this book. So basically it's about the main character who is very into this online fandom. She has this favourite book series, and then online they do the thing where, you know, when you fan play, what is the word I'm looking for? Fan fiction. I don't know why that was so hard. Fan fiction, but each person in the group like plays one of the characters. That sort of fan fiction. So it's not just writing it, it's becoming the characters. She does that online anyway. And then there's this whole thing about her having this secret life online and then the real life in life. And she doesn't want them to cross, she doesn't want people to know that she has a secret online life. I enjoyed it. I do think some of the points were very stretched thin. Like the reasoning, like, oh, I can't tell anybody about this online life. It just felt a little bit like it wasn't really a reason, and she was acting like it was a bigger deal than it was. Like, so you go online and talk to other people, it's not, you know, her reasoning behind it wasn't, it didn't feel weighty enough for the way that she acted about it, if that makes sense. But also, teenagers are dramatic and sometimes things seem more important than they are, so it's fine. And in her real life, her grades are slipping a bit because she spends too much time online. There's this girl that she's liked for ages that likes her back, and then she's getting her first girlfriend and stuff. But also, she's having feelings for this girl online that she's known in this group. So that's pretty much what's happening. All these different stories weave in. There's stuff about her parents as well. So there's a lot of family things, friend things, relationshipy things. Like I say, it's everything over several months. And just all the stuff happening and life and that. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. I give it 4 stars, I think. Boom. We're about halfway through, so let's nip on over to a message from one of the sponsors, and then I shall be back with the rest of the videos. Next up, I read Nailbiter Volume 5, Bound by Blood. I think there are 6 volumes in the main Nailbiter thing, and then there's a few called Nailbiter Returns. So I feel like the story might actually wrap up in the next one, and it does feel like that in here because like you're getting loads of information. It feels like loads of information comes in this one. Like the other 4 volumes, you see little pieces, little bits and pieces, but here and here it's like, here's loads of stuff that exists. Now you're gonna know what's happening. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're at with this one. If you don't know, this is a series about this town and loads of serial killers come from there and they don't know why. Is there a reason? Let's try and check it out and the mystery of that. So going through, you meet all these different serial killers. Not necessarily like meet them face to face, but they'll talk about like, oh yeah, the butchery dude that did this stuff and the woman that did all that stuff, and it's really cool and interesting and gory and fun and weird and horrific and all that good stuff. So yeah, if that sounds like something you're interested in, you might like this. Let me try and find a one that's not spoilery. Oh, this is like a little prequel-y bit in here. So here we go, this is the sort of artwork we have in here. So yeah, you find more out about certain characters, you find more out about certain situations and events, and we're getting there. We are getting there. And next up, I read Immune by Philip Detmer. This one, I was part of the tandem read-along, where over 2 weeks, we read this book, like the different chapters of it. It's non-fiction, all about your immune system. I did do a full video based on this book and some fun challenges a few videos ago, so I'll link that up there and down below. But it was a really fun time. It was heavy in places. I did feel like sometimes, because of the size of the book, like you'll open a page and it's just like, it's just words, obviously. But like when you see something like this, it does just feel like a barrage of words sometimes, but there were a lot of pictures interspersed as well, so it like broke it up a little bit. And also they brought humour into it as well, so you'll be reading something and it's really heavy and scientific and you're like, I don't know if this is going in my brain. And then a few paragraphs later it will be like, in a nutshell, this is what it means, or they'll bring in like weird sort of analogies of what certain things are to make it more digestible in your brain. Like you're more likely to remember something if you give it some weird personification of something, or say, oh, let's say, imagine these are bunnies and this is what would happen if they're bunnies, rather than like this weird name of a microbe or something where you're going to be like, what? So I did enjoy it. It was very heavy on the science, so sometimes I was reading it and I was like, I don't even know if what's going in is actually going in. So it's definitely one to read a bit slower and try and digest, but I did enjoy it. And it was a fun time, and so were the fun challenges that we did, so watch that video. After that, I read Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. This is one that I have been very intrigued about for a long time. As soon as I saw someone talking about this, probably many years ago now, just like the size of it and the way it just looks really caught my attention. I didn't even know what it was about. I knew there was ghosts. But basically this is set in a department store like IKEA, but not IKEA. And then there's weird ghost stuff happening, and as the book goes on, it's these characters spending a night in there and like crazy shit ensues, weird, horrific stuff happens. But it's also satirical and like slightly silly and funny, and definitely like tongue-in-cheek. If you've ever worked in retail, you will enjoy this, because it's just like the way it talks about retail and the mind-numbingness, and the way like the bosses will talk about certain things. And it just is not reality when you're just working at the front line. You're like, bro, it's just a job. Like, why are you making it this big thing? And I very much enjoyed it. Like I say, it's set in a department store, so the way the book just looks is really cool. It definitely adds to it. So each chapter starts with one of these. So it will show you a certain thing, like a bit of furniture, and tell you about it. One of the fun things in here that I don't think a lot of non-Scandinavian speaking people would have clocked, but not all of them. It was weird because some of the words were like fully made up, but then some of them I know like 0.001% of Norwegian. I know like 74 words, not even that. I know about 7 words. So when I turned to this page and saw this, it made me laugh out loud, because this is a real word. It is a swear word in Norwegian and maybe other Scandinavian countries, but it was just funny because certain times it will have like real words, and it made me laugh. So you might not catch that if you don't know that sort of stuff. But yeah, a few of these were real words and they made me laugh. And then another fun thing, like as you go through the time, these things get weirder and weirder. So they're originally just normal furniture things, and as it goes on it becomes more like torture devices and weird creepy shit. So yes, I thought this was a really fun time. I feel like I'm in my horror phase. I didn't think that I liked, not that I didn't like them, but I never really leant towards horror and thriller. My mind said, oh, you don't like thrillery books because most of the time it's a detective, and you don't really like reading them books, but you really like watching the shows like CSI and Criminal Minds and NCIS and all that. But now I've started, you know, branching out and reading horror and creepy stuff and thrillers and stuff. I do actually enjoy it, so I'm in my horror phase, and this was a good time. Next up, I read Demon in the Wood by Lee Bardugo and Danny Pendergast. This, I feel like some people say that this is a Darkling origin story. It is not. It's like one specific point in time in the Darklings' teenagehood where they went to a place and then stuff happens and then that's it. Like, it's just a little, I feel like this sort of thing, you could very easily just make loads of these that are not necessarily connected realistically, but also they are, because you can have Demon in the Wood and it's about the Darkling in this certain place and stuff happens, and then you could do another one like a few years later where you're someone else and something else happens, and it's very that. It's not an origin story, it's just a contained situation that happened one time in his life. But I did really enjoy it. I thought the artwork was really nice. I enjoyed the story. It's only set over a period of a few days, so like I say, it's not an origin story. It's just like what happened these few days when him and his mum go to this camp. And this is the sort of artwork in here. It's really nice. I really enjoyed the reading experience. And it was a super quick and easy and fun read. I thought the ending was really cool. I really enjoyed it. So yeah. And then last but not least, I read I Hear the Sunspot, Volume 2, Theory of Happiness by Yuki Firmino. This is a slice of life, contemporary story about these characters that are just in university and living their life. And it seems like the story, like the first one was a contained standalone, but then people enjoyed it so much, so we got green light for this one. And now there's like 6 of them, I think. So I believe that it's gonna go forward years and stuff. It's not just gonna be at college, because even in this one, it like goes forward in time a little bit. So it's just gonna be life in general. But it's about these 2 guys mainly, and one of them becomes the, how do you say it, he sits in the class for the other one to write down the notes. He's a note taker because the other guy has hearing issues. It doesn't say exactly what it is or why it is or whatever. It's called a hearing disability in this. I don't know if that's like translated in a weird way because obviously it's Japanese, but he has a hearing disability, so the other character writes his notes out, and it's just those 2 and the life, and then like romantic stuff. But also it's manga, so it's very, very low on the romance, doesn't happen much. It's like tiny little sprinkled in. It's just a nice story about these characters living their life and doing their thing and doing their stuff. And there's several more, and I definitely want to read them because it's just a fun time. And the artwork is exactly what you'd expect from a manga. It looks like this. Of course it does, it's manga. And it's a good time. And in this volume, another deaf character is introduced, and it's also talking a lot about deafness and sign language and different sort of things. So I think it's really interesting that it's like such a main focus of the story. So if you want to have more books with disabilities and stuff to read, if you feel like that's something that you want to expand on, then this area maybe is for you. And there we go, those are all the things that I read in January. Let me know down below what you read, or if you've read any of these, what were your feelings? Do any sound like you want to read them now I've talked about them? Let me know down below, and subscribe if you want, check out some other videos if you want, and I'll see you in a few days with another video. Bye.